Hi everyone, Bear from Bear Reads Books. Welcome back to my channel. Time for a tag video from me. You never see me do tag videos, but I thought I really should try and get back to them. There's been some great tag videos out there recently. I think, oh man, I should really do those, and then time passes and then you forget to do them. But this one I've done before, I think, maybe last year or even the year before. So I really like this video. I watch a lot of these tag videos. So I thought I'd do the mid-year book Freakout tag. So many people have done it already, so as usual I'm late to the party. But this is a really good tag with some great questions. So here I go. The question, best book I've read so far in 2021. I was going through my list and there's a lot of dark stuff there in 2021. I don't know why, and there's a lot of BookTube prize reading as well. But the one that I chose as the standout for 2021 so far is Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan. And I've spoken about this a couple of times. I didn't do a standalone review, but man, it's a fantastic book about the friendship of boys and young men growing up in Glasgow in the 1970s, 80s, 90s and modern times. It is an incredible achievement of a book. Which tells the story of these group of friends that grow up in Glasgow. It's a pretty hard neighbourhood, it's a hard city to live in, and it's filled with poverty and violence. And these group of boys spend their time going to a music festival. So they all travel to another city to go to a music festival, and it's about them getting the money together and finding accommodation and just really spending the time with each other as young men and exploring that. And as young men, they're wonderful, beautiful human beings. They don't treat people poorly. They don't act out with violence. They don't drink too much and be stupid. It's a picture of men that we don't regularly see, and then that narrative is balanced with a later narrative of the story of these same group of men when one of them falls sick and is requesting help to allow him to die with dignity. So that you've got these two dual narratives playing against each other, and they're really quite an amazing book. And it shows up again in this list a couple of times down further below, because when you keep asking me questions like are on the book Freakout tag, I just keep bringing this book to the front of my mind. If you haven't read it, you really should. There's a couple of really good reviews out there that other channels have done as well, so check out those reviews if you're still not sure. But Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan is my standout for the year. Best sequel I've read so far in 2021. I don't generally read series and I don't generally read sequels, but I am in the middle of one and I have finished one. So the only one I've finished is Ready Player 2, and that's a sequel obviously to Ready Player 1. And it was a serious disappointment. I really didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. I think because it was a carbon copy that had lost some of its sheen of the first one. The first one was so new and different and was really trying to do something exciting and capture a market that had never been captured before. And then the second one just really copied that but didn't do as good a job. So yes, it is the only sequel that I finished. I'll get to the other sequel a little later because it shows up in a later question. But really, don't really read series, but best sequel, the only sequel, Ready Player 2. New release I haven't read yet, but I want to, and I bought this book just last week because a few people have been mentioning it on their channels. It's called Assembly by Natasha Brown. The reason why it attracted my attention specifically is because people were drawing comparisons between this and Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, which I have reviewed before and I've said marvellous things about many times on this channel, and it's just something that's really captured my thinking and emotion when it comes to books is Mrs. Dalloway. And this is not a modern retelling. It is its own story, it's its own thing, but it is this very similar story structure in that a woman I'll read it out. The narrator is a black British woman. She's preparing to attend a lavish garden party at her boyfriend's family estate set deep in the English countryside. At the same time, she is considering the carefully assembled pieces of herself. As the minutes tick down and the future beckons, she can't escape the question, is it time to take it all apart? And in essence, that kind of is what Mrs. Dalloway is doing, is considering and reconsidering her own life, her own choices, and the path that she's taken as she does this circuitous route around the streets of London. And here is also in London, a black British woman is on this personal exploration as she goes on her daily jobs and routine before going to a party. So on the surface it really does seem like a Mrs. Dalloway type of story, but at a very slim 99 pages, I'm curious to see how all of that comes together in such a slim volume and as a modern telling of a similar story. And I'm interested in those kinds of stories where people just walk around for over the space of a day, and there's quite a few of them, and we just get to hear their own internal monologues and see all the things that are happening around them. So that is something that that I really want to get to, and it's been released. I've bought it, I'm ready to go. It's only 99 pages, so I'll probably knock it off sometime very, very soon. Next, number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I don't think I can go past Sally Rooney. I'm still yet to do Conversations with Friends, so I've read Normal People, and when I read it, it was one of the most amazing things I've ever read, and I think it does an amazing job of redefining what story can be and what dialogue can be. And I think there's so much interesting stuff happening in a Sally Rooney novel that it was incredible. It really was an eye-opener when I read Normal People. And I think when they made the TV show as well, it captured that mood and that emotion very, very well also. Unfortunately, I haven't got to Conversations with Friends, so I need to get to that before the new one comes out, whose name escapes me. I'll put it on the screen. But the new Sally Rooney novel comes out later this year, and I must read it. Number 5, the biggest disappointment. And this will challenge a lot of people, but I think I've said it before, my biggest disappointment so far reading this year, it was released last year, was A Promised Land by Barack Obama. I'm not an American. I'm not embedded in American political life, but I have an opinion, like most other people. But I just found it to be a dissection, a daily almost dissection of a presidency that in and of itself is a very interesting and noteworthy presidency, but I just found the retelling of it to be a simple daily dissection, and it wasn't enough for me, because I can pick up any story of any Prime Minister of Australia or any other President of the United States and get the same experience, and I don't think it did any more than any of those other political autobiographies. And to know that there's a second volume coming out that'll do exactly the same thing turned me completely off it. So yeah, Barack Obama, A Promised Land, it's a big no for me. Number 6, the biggest surprise for 2021 so far was a really big surprise. I didn't really think, why did I pick it up in the first? Anyway, let me have a think about it. But the number 6 I put as Monique Roffey's The Mermaid of Black Conch. Such a strange and excitingly good little volume of work. It was the winner of what did it win? The Costa Prize. So it won the Costa Prize for literature this year, and I think that's what prompted me. That was the only thing that prompted me to pick it up. And being a prize winner, they're not all great. Just because it wins a prize and me reading in another country doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy it. I mean, there's plenty of prize books that I don't enjoy, but picked this up purely on a whim, purely because it had won the Costa Prize, and it was surprisingly good. It was amazingly good. Very, very good story. Tells the story of a fisherman in the Caribbean who meets a mermaid and falls in love with a mermaid. And on the surface of it, that sounds like an interesting tale for children. It is not. It's got the greatest, longest sex scene that I've ever read in literature. And this is a small book. It's got a cracking big sex scene in the middle of it that is amazing. And it really is a story of love and magic, and I was absolutely captivated by it. If you haven't read it, you should. It's incredible. The Mermaid of Black Conch by Monique Roffey. Number 7, my favourite new author, debut or new to you, me. And I'm going to go with Australian book for this one. I don't know if I've talked too much about Australian books yet. No, I haven't. Wow, okay. Favourite new author. This one was an author called Jessie 2, and her book, A Lonely Girl is a Dangerous Thing, was nominated for the Stella Prize. I think it got through. It was longlisted. I don't think it got through the shortlist. It really should. It polarised a few people because of the descriptions of sex and not violence, but of sex, and there were some very, very detailed descriptions of sex in this book. It was about a young girl who is world-class performer for the violin, and she tries to work professionally as a violinist, but she is constantly in fear and anxiety about her own ability and about what other people think of her. So, and at her core, she is incredibly lonely. She finds it difficult to make friends. She has a problem with her family, and that she doesn't connect well with her family. And all of that history is laid out in the book as well. And what she does to overcome her loneliness is seek out empty sexual encounters. And when you see those sexual encounters in light of her loneliness, then it makes perfect sense why she's doing it. And you see those quite graphic descriptions of sex in the book as not as tales of love and lust, but as tales of pure desperation and loneliness. And it's quite a sad book. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as a new author, Jessie 2 has captured me completely. I can't wait for whatever she does, whether it be something published online, a short story, or whatever. I will be seeking it out. That is Jessie 2, and her book, A Lonely Girl is a Dangerous Thing. I hope it's available overseas. If you're here in Australia, it is available everywhere. 8, my newest fictional crush. I don't generally do fictional crushes, although I have had a fictional crush on... I have fictional crushes on authors rather than characters. Is that what this is referring to? Because I've had a fictional crush on Donna Tartt ever since she released her first book, A Secret History, back in the 90s. And she's written a grand total of 3 books in 20 years or 25 years. And I just eagerly await anything that she writes. But she publishes so infrequently that it's a labour of love to stay connected to her. But that's not new. Probably my newest crush, I guess, is another author, Ben Lerner. And again, there's been criticisms about Ben Lerner for being overcomplicated and overly self-absorbed. And it is auto-fiction. It is meant to be describing Ben Lerner's own life in a fictionalised way. But personally, I find all of his books incredibly satisfying. For a couple of reasons. I think his characterisation is amazing in how deep he goes into a character's psyche, that you can understand a character so much. And that I love, because in some books you just carry it along with the story, and in other books you get wrapped up in a particular character. And for Ben Lerner, it's all about character, I think. I think his stories are sometimes a little bit too disjointed to get completely enveloped in. But the books that I've read of Ben Lerner's, and I've got one more on my shelf that I haven't read, and all this stuff that's online, short stories and interviews and things like that. Yeah, there is a crush there, and I wish I was as good as him in anything. I think he's one of these obsessive people that writes and writes and writes, and he's this this crazed artist type, I think. He writes poetry, he writes about poetry, and then he writes literature, short stories, and online essay pieces. There's a bunch of stuff about him online if you want to go digging, and that's Ben Lerner. His most recent one, the Topeka School, won a prize. I can't remember what it was. Was it the Pulitzer? No, it wasn't the Pulitzer. It was something. But Ben Lerner's Topeka School won a prize, but again, it was criticised for being overly complex and overly self-absorbed. And you're right, it is, and that's why I like it. Does that make me overly complex and overly self-absorbed? I hope not. I just seem to enjoy his books, and I hope you do too. That was number 8, my newest fictional crush. My newest favourite character. Let me grab this book. My newest favourite character, and I mentioned that when I go away with friends, none of my friends read the same way I do, or the same type of books that I do. So trying to find books that we, as a friendship group, can read together when we're on long car journeys, or something we can talk about together, is really difficult. And when we went hiking a couple of months ago, we had enough time with the drive there and the drive back to complete an entire audiobook. And it was this. It was Matthew Riley's 7 Ancient Wonders. And it's a Jack West novel. This is the first of the Jack West novels. And there are 7 of them, because the second book is 6 something somethings, and the third book is 5 something somethings. And we listened to this. And so as my newest favourite character, I'm going to go with Jack West. Now these are almost throwaway novels. You read them, you go, haha, wow, and then you just throw this in the recycle bin. These are not pieces of literature. This is pure, fantastical entertainment, full of guns and shooting and just weird technology and descriptions of a bullet entering someone's skull. It is just non-stop action aplenty, and that's not going to appeal to everybody, and it doesn't always appeal to me. But when I'm in a car for a while, you can fall asleep for half an hour, wake up and know exactly where you're up to. It's kind of like a soap opera in that respect. You can skip bits if you want. You'll still understand what's happening. But that was the first one, and I have started the second one, and I'm nowhere near finishing it. And it'll be the sort of thing that I come back to in 6 months' time and just go, oh yeah, that's where I was up to. Because it's not the sort of thing you need to concentrate on very much. I can't even tell you what the second one's called. 6 something somethings. Oh, the 6 sacred stones. That's what it is. The 6 sacred stones. I thought it was all S's. So he is my favourite, newest favourite character from these action-packed, and he's a terrible character. Like, there is nothing good about Matthew Riley's books apart from the action aplenty stuff. His characterizations are shallow. His storylines are completely unbelievable. But if you want to escape in a book for a day or a weekend, there is nothing better than to just fall into one of these things and just laugh along with it. They really are that ridiculous. And for that entertainment value only, he is my favourite character, Jack West Jr. The books that made me cry, and I've got 2 on my list. And one of them is a return from the top of the list, which is Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan, which I've spoken about before. It seriously made me weep. It's sad, and it's the next one as well. Books that made me happy is Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan as well, because his portrait of male relationships, about how men relate to each other, or how they should relate to each other, is perfect. And that makes me happy. So I'm crossing into number 11 here, but that makes me happy. Where this relationship and the things that these two men go through together as friends made me cry. And I can't urge you enough to read this book. Andrew O'Hagan's Mayflies. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me very happy and very, very sad all at once. So the other thing that's on my books that made me cry list, for almost the same reason, I'm guessing it could go on the books that made me happy list as well, another Australian book on this list that I'm going through for the tag. It is a book that I've just finished in the last 12 hours, like last night. It's called We Were Not Men by Campbell Mattinson. An Australian author, his first book, and he said he's been writing it for something like 20, 25 years. And it really is an incredible book. And again, it's about the relationships that men have with each other. And this tells the story of twin boys, whose lives are upended with a horrible event when their parents are killed in a car accident, and then they have to go and live with their grandmother, who's a bit loopy and a bit of a drunk, and it tells the story of these boys' lives and all of the things that happen to them along the way. The stuff that happens to them is not unrealistic. Like, we're not talking about thing after thing after thing after horrible thing happening to them. It really is, it could be anybody's life. Whose lives were turned around completely by the death of their parents, and then what happens after that. And that the emotions are very realistically brought to the page. And I really felt for these two boys. I really felt for the family and the grandmother, even though she was a bit strange. And every character in this book has something uplifting about them. There's no, there's a dark spectre of a person hiding around the corner. No, it's not that. It really is kind of like Mayflies. There's no one working against anybody. It's just a picture of people getting on with their lives the best way they can. And both of these books, in a similar way, considering that they're both about relationships between men, do a fantastic job. And they both made me cry. And they both made me happy. I'll say those titles again. Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan and We Were Not Men by Campbell Mattinson. I hope it's out where you are. It's just been released in Australia. I had it as an advanced reader copy on NetGalley, so it is out now. Number 12, the most beautiful book I've bought or received as a gift this year. I did buy it for myself, and I've shown you this book before, and it is this lovely bound version of poems by Emily Dickinson. It hasn't shown up on Goodreads as something I'm reading now, or I haven't really talked about it since I bought it, but I have been flicking through it so I'm not reading it back to front or anything, but I have randomly picked it up when I felt like a poetry hit, if you ever feel like that, and just read a couple of pages or a couple of poems and just ingesting it in that way. And that's been lovely. But it's so tactile with this embossed leather feel front cover and these beautiful birds in cages on the inlay front and back. It's just a gorgeous book, and lovely thick pages and lovely typeface. I don't usually fall in love with how books look, but this one absolutely blew me away. As soon as I saw it, and then even more when I grabbed it off the shelf and touched it, I had to have it. It's beautiful. Number 13. What books do I need to read by the end of the year? I do need to read these. I said I was going to read them. Excuse me. I really do need to read these. I said I was going to read this at the beginning of the year. I need to, and it's just a big lump of a book. Don Quixote by Cervantes. The reason why I wanted to read this is because Salman Rushdie has done a modernised, rewritten version called Quixote, which is I think the correct pronunciation of Quixote. So before I read the reworked, modernised version by Salman Rushdie, I wanted to give this a shot. But such a big thing. It's just about finding the right time. So I really do want to do this year. But then this came as well. Edward Rutherford's China, which has been promised to be arriving for about the last 18 months, and then just finally dropped on the shelf without any warning at all, without any fanfare. It is kind of mass market fiction, but I love it. Edward Rutherford, if you've never tried him, he does these massive, big, multi-generational family history things that really just draw you in. Amazing. They've even got like family trees on the inside pages. On the first few pages, they got maps of where people move. It's just amazing. Edward Rutherford's China. So they're things I really do need to get to this year, and I think if I start them during this period, now that I'm not doing a BookTube Prize reading session, then I'll keep going with them. But I do need to get some of these others off my shelf. I've got about 6 books on the go at the moment, so maybe next. Favourite book community member, number 14. That's the last one, and I do have so many that I watch regularly. My favourite book community member, I got so many favourites. Let me do 3. Probably the channel that I watched first, and I still watch, is A Book Olive. And if you've never seen Olive from A Book Olive, she's great. And she does all types of books and all types of discussions, as well as the tags and all the normal videos that I'm really bad at. But she does all of that sort of traditional BookTube stuff, as well as just has discussions about topics and things like that. And for that, she works non-stop. There's videos all the time. That's Olive from A Book Olive. I'll put the links down below. The other person that I found early, and I continue to watch, is Brian from Bookish. And I do mention him a lot because I think we have similar reading tastes, I think. And he does similar things in that he will do straight up book review, he'll do tag videos, he'll do life updates, he'll also do just political rants. Some of his recent political rants have been fantastic. Thank you, Brian. And I've been watching him almost since the beginning. And one of the newer ones, the third one I'm going to mention, one of the newer ones is an Australian bunch or Australian couple. Their channel is called Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. They're trying to do something different. They have the questions they have about books, or genres of books, and recently they've done a couple of videos about what's the point of literary fiction. And but they read in literary fiction. They read lots of books in literary fiction, but doing a video about what the hell is the point about literary fiction. They're trying to do interesting things, and for that I really enjoy their videos. So there was 3 there that I've been following for quite a while, and I really enjoy their videos. Get on them. But really, everybody should be doing this tag. It's a great tag, but that's it. 14 questions. It takes a while to get through that, though. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, wherever you may be, and I will see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.